going back to remember that opposition plea that was being heard in the Supreme Court as far as misuse of central agencies is concerned, now what we're hearing from the CJI is that we're not going to entertain this. If you want, you can come back in individual cases where someone has been targeted. We've been hearing from Abhishek Manu Singhvi saying how cases actually have increased manifold times as far as the ED and the CBI is concerned. And now what we're hearing from the Chief Justice of India is that they're not going to be entertaining this plea at this stage. But the option given is that if you do want, you can come back in individual cases where someone has been targeted. So as we pointed out, this hearing was on in the top court. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, in fact, had given some numbers in terms of how cases have increased as far as the misuse of central agencies is concerned. And this is a narrative that we've heard from the opposition parties time and again, that there is misuse of central agencies. And in fact, when this hearing was on, Abhishek Manu Singhvi had said that from 2013 to 14 to 2021 to 2022, there is almost a 600% increase in CBI and ED cases. He had given some numbers that from 200, the cases have almost gone up to 1200. So this matter was in fact being heard by a bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud. And now what we're hearing is that the CJI has gone on to say that they will not be entertaining this plea as of now. Let's bring in our colleague Pallavi also. Pallavi, as Ananya, our legal correspondent, was also pointing out, the point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi was making is something that we've heard from the opposition before as well, that there is misuse of agencies. They're working at the behest of the central government. But the CJI has rejected all those claims and said that they will not be entertaining this. How will the opposition be seeing this? Okay, we'll try and reestablish that connection with Pallavi. But as we pointed out, this was a hearing that was happening in the top court where Abhishek Manu Singhvi, in fact, had said that the number of cases as far as the CBI and ED are concerned, they've increased manifold time. He had gone on to say they'd increased about 600%. At that point also, we had heard the CJI said that conviction rate usually in cases like these is dismal. And now we're understanding that the CJI in fact has gone on to say that we're not entertaining this. If you do want, you can come back in individual cases where someone has been targeted. The Supreme Court, they're hearing the opposition's plea. This is a narrative that we've heard from various opposition parties in the past as well, from the Aam Aadmi Party, because they said our leaders like Manish Sisodia and Satendra Jain were targeted. We've heard this from the Congress, the BRS and others as well, that today the intent of the agencies is under scanner because the opposition parties feel that only opposition leaders are being targeted because agencies today are working at the behest of the central government. Time and again, the BJP has responded to the criticism saying that you can have differences as far as political parties are concerned, but questioning the work and intent of the agencies is not how a democracy should function. And why don't you just let the investigative agencies do their job? If nothing comes out of it, then you'll have a lot to talk about. So in the backdrop of all of this, there was a hearing that was happening in the Supreme Court. The matter was being heard by the Chief Justice of India, who in fact has now said that they will not be entertaining this plea. Pallavi, I believe, is now back with us. Pallavi, any reaction? Okay, we seem to have lost that connection with Pallavi again. We'll try and establish a connection with our colleague to try and understand what really is happening. Also, the fine print of what we've heard as far as the arguments that were made by Abhishek Manu Singhvi and also what we've heard from the CJI. But initial information that is coming in, we're understanding the CJI at this point, in fact, has said that they will not be entertaining this plea, but they've also given the options that you can come back if there are specific individual cases where you can prove that an individual in fact has been targeted. We're getting some more details also, as we pointed out, that the CJI in fact as of now has gone on to say that they will not be entertaining the plea. Remember, this was filed by 14 opposition parties alleging the misuse of central agencies. So the Supreme Court bench headed by the CJI, as I pointed out, has gone on to say that political leaders cannot be put on higher pedestal. The question that is being raised is that even politicians are citizens of the country and they're not really above the law. They can't be given immunity. The Supreme Court has also gone on to say, as I pointed out, political leaders too are citizens of India. Nobody is really above the law. The moment you say democracy, it's essentially a plea for politicians. This is what we've heard from the Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice of India has also questioned as how there can be a different set of procedure for politicians and others. So the CJI there setting the record straight that even if you say the number of cases have increased, how does that stop the investigation of cases? And just because the number of cases have increased, should that actually stop investigation? Because this is what we're hearing from the CJI, that even politicians are citizens of the country and the law is the same for everyone. The minute you say the number of cases have increased, are you then putting politicians above law? We'll try and get more details of what really is happening and if we're getting any reactions as far as the opposition parties are concerned. But as of now, as we pointed out, the Supreme Court has refused to entertain the plea filed by 14 opposition parties. Let's take in a reaction from the BJP. Mr. R.P. Singh now joining us. So good to have you on the broadcast with us. Your first reaction to the Supreme Court refusing to entertain the plea which had been filed by opposition parties, essentially saying that today there is misuse of central agencies like the CBI and the ED.
Well, this clearly shows that all those political parties which under the umbrage of corruption has come together, their appeal has been rejected by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has patted rather in a fashion the CBI and ED to go ahead and to ensure that all those who are corrupt or who are involved in corrupt practices should be booked. And now they are saying that we are withdrawing the petition. This clearly shows that the petition never had any merit and then it didn't stand any ground in the court. But the fact is that all corrupt parties have come together against CBI and ED, and then government is standing against corruption. The message of Prime Minister Modi is that he won't allow any corruption to go on in the country, and then he wants to clear country of the corruption, which is the biggest menace in the country today.
Mr. Singh, even though the plea has been dismissed by the Supreme Court as of now, the point that was being made by the opposition was that just look at the number of cases that have increased as far as the CBI and ED is concerned. Abhishek Manu Singhvi said there is a 600% increase.
Well, that's good. I mean, they should appreciate that CBI and ED is doing their work seriously. I mean, if it's from 600, they should go to 6,000. I mean, they should, and then out of these, majority cases are not of the politicians. They are of bureaucrats and then businessmen or the middlemen. Politicians are only 5 to 10%. That's why they're making hue and cry on that. But yes, the cases increase, and then it is the most welcome step. I mean, anyone should welcome any action against corruption.
Okay.
I don't understand why these parties are not happy with the action against corruption, because it seems that they are themselves so much involved in corruption, and right from Pandit Nehru till now, that's how the government was done, with middlemen and with corrupt practices.
Okay, Mr. Singh, we leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for joining us here on CNN News 18. Let's also now bring in our legal correspondent, Ananya Bhatnagar. Ananya, so of course the opposition parties will not be happy because this has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. Help us understand what this plea petition was all about and what we've heard from the CJI.
Well, this was a petition filed by 14 opposition parties being led by the Indian National Congress in this particular case. This was the lead, petitioner. The INC was the lead petitioner, and Mr. Singhvi was basically arguing for all of these 14 political parties, saying that there is a misuse of the central agencies. Figures show that there is a 600% rise in the registration of cases by the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate. What has also been stated by Mr. Singhvi was that, there has to be certain kind of guidelines when it comes to cases of politicians and people who are involved in offences which are less than 7 years, and there is no kind of a bodily injury in that particular crime that is there, like a case of murder or rape. That could be an exception, but then otherwise there should be certain kind of guidelines which lead to pre-arrest and post-arrest guidelines that should be there. But the Chief Justice of India very clearly questioned that, the time you say democracy and a petition is by political parties, there cannot be a higher threshold, there cannot be a higher pedestal that these politicians can be granted. And because at the end of the day, political leaders too are the citizens of the country and have to face the same law. Since the very beginning of this hearing, the same question was being put by the Chief Justice of India, because this is a plea by political parties. This is not a plea by some individual case. Like, for example, if Manish Sisodiya could have knocked the doors of the Supreme Court alleging that there is some kind of wrongdoing that has been done on me, then the case would have been heard differently. Just like it was in the case of Arnab Goswami, just like it was in the case of Mohammad Zubair, where the Supreme Court actually went on to grant certain kind of a relief. But here, the Supreme Court very clearly said that if at all you want to come back with individual cases and not these political parties.